Hi guys, Houston Math Prep here. Today we're going to start our conversation talking about populations versus samples, and with that also kind of getting into parameters versus statistics. So we learned before that a population is the set of all items of interest, but populations are often very hard to measure or very expensive to work with. So instead we often use a subset of those items, and we call that a sample. Populations, when we are able to work with them, we tend to use the capital letter N to represent populations. And things that we measure from a population are called a parameter. When we're working with a sample, we will tend to denote what we measure with a lowercase n, or the number of items that we measure with a lowercase n. And then what we can measure about those items we call statistics. So our job in the remainder of our video today is going to be to look at some scenarios and try to determine, okay, in this situation, what is the population and what is the sample? So let's look at our first situation. Here we have a manager at a light bulb factory who selected 50 light bulbs from those produced this week to test for quality control. Okay, so in this situation, we have a light bulb factory. They're essentially producing lots and lots and lots of light bulbs in a particular week. And this manager is selecting 50 of them to make sure that what is being produced is of high quality. So when we think about what are all the items that we're interested in, that would be all the light bulbs that were produced this week. So our population is going to be all light bulbs produced this week. Now, for whatever reason, we can't test the quality of all of the light bulbs produced this week. Maybe our testing destroys them, or maybe we produce millions of light bulbs in a week and it's just not feasible. So instead we have to work with a sample, and so the sample would be the light bulbs that we actually do pull out of this population and test. And so that would be the 50 light bulbs selected. So our sample here would be the 50 light bulbs. All right, let's look at another example. In this situation, we have a survey of 550 American households, and 416 of them said that they do go to the grocery store at least once per week. So here, it would seem like the set of all items or people in this case that we're interested in, we are interested in the habits of all American households. So our population would be all American households. But of course, it's not really feasible to talk to all American households, so we have to ask or survey a subset of the American households. So in this case, we surveyed 550 of them, so that represents our sample. Okay, so that brings up the question of what about this 416 number over here? What is that? In this case, 416 that said that they do go to the grocery store at least once per week would be a statistic. That would be something that we would be using to measure on the sample of 550 American households. So this is a statistic. All right, and last one. A musician wants to know the number of people. A musician wanted to know what people who bought her latest album thought of her work. So her record company contacted 5,000 customers who downloaded her album. So in this case, the musician would like to know the opinion of all people who bought her album. So that would represent the population. So all people who bought the album. But of course, that's not really feasible, so we have to ask a subset. In this case, her record company contacted 5,000 customers who downloaded her album. That would be our sample. 5,000 customers. In this case, it is worth noting that we know that we can use samples to talk about populations, but we want to do our best to make sure that the sample will be representative of the population that we're trying to study. So in this case, if we want to know about all people who bought the album, but we only speak to 5,000 customers who downloaded the album, assuming that there is a hard copy album that I could go to a brick and mortar store and purchase, I might be getting a biased opinion of those who downloaded it. So maybe you might imagine that those who downloaded the album were so excited about the album they couldn't wait to get to the store. So maybe they're more super fans and they may be giving one type of opinion versus those who were more interested in having a physical copy and went to the store. So just a bit of food for thought as we get into our later part of our course. We'll start thinking about biased samples, and those are going to be things to watch for. All right, well, that does it for this video. Catch you next time.